Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. So today, just like the title and thumbnail suggests, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, as we usually do, but also about altcoins, buying Bitcoin, exit strategies, and the things that are kind of floating out there. Now, because I can't keep up with everything, it's very difficult, especially in the crypto space. I had to reach out and bring somebody else in to help me out and to give the best information we possibly can. So without further ado, Sam, my financial friend, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, right. This ought to be a good one. It's Sunday. It's nice and it's not too much is going on. So why don't we talk a little bit about some strategies, what you're into, and kind of go from there. And of course, people, if you don't know, Sam, his YouTube channel, there's a link in the description as well as his X account, and you can follow it over there. And then I actually was on his show, golly, was it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Sweet Mary and Joe, that was a long time. And now I'm actually a crypto veteran, which is crazy. But we talked about the exit strategy and what's going on and when I'm actually getting out. So I wanted to not return the favor, but I wanted to leech all the information I possibly could out of Sam about what he's doing. And then, of course, the altcoin. So Sam, let's start with this. Let's start with first of all, your journey to get here. That's a good one. And then, what your plan is as far as taking profits, or I don't even know if you're going to sell everything all at once or how this actually works. So let's just start there. How'd you get here? Portfolio a little bit, and then, are you going to sell everything, or how does the exit strategy look?
Sure. So obviously a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I don't really talk too much about how I got interested in finance and crypto in the first place anymore. I did a lot when I started my channel, but basically I went to school for medicine. I starting my undergrad. I had almost a 4.0, like 3.98 in college. And I was just starting to become a doctor. And then I realized I didn't really want to do it. I was in my final semester. My long-term girlfriend, who was also doing the same thing, we broke up. So then, I think I was just competitive, and that was the smartest decision to make, is to go become a doctor. At least at the time, that's what I thought. And I liked the challenge. So last semester had like a moment where I just realized I was lying to myself. So I figured if I wasn't going to be making $300K a year coming out of college, I should probably learn about finance and try to figure out what I should do with maybe $30,000 I was bound to make since I really had no career anymore. So learned about financial independence and retiring early, got super interested in that, moved back home with my parents, got a job in a bank, and then just started learning more and more about how you could save significant amounts of money and then try to retire at 30, 35. But I thought I found I don't know, some kind of magic that you could, invest 50% of what you made and retire in 17 years. I thought that was amazing.
Right.
Yeah, but no one that I talked to cared about that. They're like, oh, you can't save 50%. That's impossible. And at the time I was living at home with my parents, so I didn't really know what was possible. But I, kept on learning more about it, made a YouTube channel to start talking about it. Then COVID happened. I started talking about individual stock investing. My brother-in-law had tried to tell me about crypto since 2017. And I was like, oh, I heard about it in a bar for the first time. And this person was talking about how it's only going up. So then I just was like, this guy's an idiot. And then it crashed and I felt super smart for never investing in it. And then it started to rally again. And I was like, okay, I should probably pay attention to it now. And I got super interested in cryptocurrency in 2020.
2020. Yeah. Oh, you're you're the class of 2020, 2021. Oh, yeah. Okay. I get to meet everybody. This is fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So that catches us up. So you were on the dark side. You were working for the evil empire, which were the banks and their fractionalized reserve lending. That's fantastic. So some of their tricks. So when you got into, did you get into Bitcoin first, or did you get into some crazy alts first?
No, I got into Bitcoin first. Pretty boring there, but I was just working at a retail bank. So it was definitely an interesting place to learn about making money, because I could see what people made and what people had in their accounts when we were helping them with different stuff. So it was interesting to see how money just changed for some people. Like there's a 2% savings account or a 2% checking account that gave you 2% APY. And there's someone that had like a couple $1 million, and all they had to do was sign a piece of paper to switch it over, the same checking account number and stuff. They just need to sign a piece of paper for like $20,000 a year in interest, and they just never did. They didn't care. Like it was just nothing to them.
Wow.
It wasn't worth coming in for. So it was interesting to see how some people work. Like $1 is worth so much to some people, and $20,000 is worth nothing. So yeah, it was interesting then moving into crypto, looking at something that's decentralized, not with the prying hand or people looking at your accounts, that kind of stuff, as much as a bank. So yeah, I got super interested in crypto, started diving in. Now I'm 70% Bitcoin. It changes. It was even higher, but obviously some altcoins have done well over the last couple months. I've been allocating a little bit more towards Bitcoin, in the sense that I took a lot of payments in Bitcoin over the last couple months. So my Bitcoin stack is growing, but alts are just doing extremely well too. So yeah, it's an exciting time, this part of the cycle.
Yeah, for sure. So so speaking of that, and we're talking about, of course, your like your portfolio, like we're kind of on the same wavelength there, as far as like Bitcoin, which I know some people in the audience like, why do you do that boomer coin? Because it's not going to go up too much. And I'm like, well, safety first. That's what I say. So like I said, this would be my portfolio, mostly over 70% Bitcoin and a whole host of altcoins that are out there. But let's break into it and talk about the strategy. So now that you've accumulated, since you've been here since 2021, in 2022, because this would be like me going through 2017, riding it all the way up and all the way down, doing a round trip, then realizing I'm not as smart as I thought I was, and then either throwing in the towel or starting to invest more. Did you start to invest more immediately, or you were like, this is a scam, then did some research, or how did this work to get you to where you are like right now?
Yeah, so I started buying, and I bought more as the market went up, and my income was going up more too. So I just bought more and more and more until the very peak, and I was like, oh, well, now we're falling down. I knew it was bound to happen, but unfortunately, I had some in UST at the time. I like a stack
Luna
of cash that was going to be meant for buying in the bear market. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but an important lesson that stablecoin is not necessarily the same thing as cash sitting in a FDIC insured bank.
True.
Obviously, there are drawbacks to both of them, but yeah. So I kept on stacking throughout the bear market. Was pretty good about that, and then just kept on buying up until now. Now it's kind of an interesting stage because we're almost at all-time highs. So yes. I am going to start probably not selling the stack that I have now, but stop accepting payments in Bitcoin, in crypto around this price. Like this is probably as big as my stack will get or close to it. I have bought a little bit of the BlackRock ETF too. It's nice to be able to put something in a retirement account. So that way you can get away with not really paying taxes on it if you sell it in a 401k or Roth or something like that. So I've been doing that a little bit too. But yeah, I didn't think that Bitcoin was a scam. I knew the risks when it was going up, but something that I didn't realize at the time, something that I heard that I think is pretty right on. Your first cycle in crypto, you don't really make money. It's usually the second cycle. Then the third cycle, like you're pretty well set. But I think that's good for people to know. And obviously, like more and more people will be asking us, not should I sell cryptocurrency, but should I buy cryptocurrency in this next bull run? Like over the next year, so many people are going to be asking us that. And they're not even going to care about when to sell. They're just wondering if it's the time to buy. And it's important to remember, you probably won't make money, but you probably should start allocating some amount to crypto, because otherwise you'll just never do it. You'll watch it go all the way up, and you'll watch it go down. And you'll say, oh, I was right. Just like I thought I was right in 2018, 2019. Oh, that was dumb. Why did anyone invest in it? And then it goes back up, and then you never end up buying, or you think it's going to keep on falling down, and then you wait to buy. So I think, people should be looking to allocate towards crypto, because we can see everything that's happening in the background with all the ETFs buying, with a lot of high net worth individuals buying, with countries getting more bullish. I just saw the World Economic Forum post something bullish or actually good about Bitcoin the other day. Did you see that video that's circulating around Twitter?
Yep, and it was a funny thing because you had the head of BlackRock, Larry Fink, who was part of that, and of course he was big on the ESG compliance. And then all of a sudden he's like, it's not as big of a deal as we think it is. And all of a sudden he gets into Bitcoin, and all of a sudden now the WF is coming in. It's amazing how the narrative changes, and that's why I say like this cycle is a little bit different. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, those are also the famous last words. I know that we were talking about like
That's right.
Yeah, when we might want to sell. And I do see people changing a little bit. Like people are saying, well, now this cycle is different. And it does feel different. Every cycle is different, but this is the first cycle that we've had big money come in. So now people are starting to think maybe I don't need to sell anything ever, which I think it's important to kind of get an idea for what your goals are. How will you feel if Bitcoin goes into a super cycle? Then we never come back down. And then how will you feel too if we do have that typical 75 to 85% drop in the bear market? Like, what's a good middle ground for you to hold? If you want to hold something, maybe you want to hold some Bitcoin long term, but then kind of set your selling plan. And I know we were going to talk about it. Do you mind if I present for a minute and I'll show you what my plan is?
Let's see this plan, because there's people right now saying you should never sell anything. Well, you should never sell your Bitcoin. Some people will say you should never sell this specific alt or that specific alt, but usually it's about Bitcoin. Never sell Bitcoin. That's the famous war cry for Michael Saylor. And I can see some of the points, but let's take a look at what we got here.
Yeah. So obviously there are some people that say that they're never going to sell. Like I know someone that started buying in 2015 and they moved their whole family to Bitcoin, and they're not trying to time Bitcoin because they think of it as an alternative to the US dollar. It's not an investment for them. They just think of it as a better dollar. I understand that way of thinking, but I'm still trying to gain in US dollar terms. That's really my goal at the end of the day, because I don't really care about some arbitrary number. I just want to have freedom of time and freedom to do what I want, that kind of thing. So timing, if you can time the cycle, it's typically pretty valuable if you can get out at the right time. Now, this is kind of an eyesore. It's a difficult chart to understand at first. But this is coming from the rational root, and each circle is a cycle.
Right.
So we start here, we go around. This is 2013, 2017, 2021. And you can see a lot. This shows the entire price history of Bitcoin over time, where red dots are bottoms and these big blue dots are tops. All these little blue dots are new all-time highs. So you know, if you're watching
crazy
this,
how they line up.
Yeah, it is crazy. If you're watching this, maybe you need to pause it to really take a look at the chart. But you can see the last three cycles, the bottoms have all been within a few months of each other.
Yeah.
And that all-time highs have been, or the peaks of the bull markets have been within a few months of each other too. There are a lot of people, though, that are talking about left translated cycle, which means that maybe we don't peak over here close to 2026. Maybe we peak, first half of 2025 or something like that. Usually it takes about a year, though, from when we start hitting the new all-time high to get to our the peak of the cycle. So what I'm kind of looking at is the halving is going to happen right here. We might hit an all-time high between now and the halving, or right after the halving. It's impossible to know. But I will probably look at when the first new all-time high is, and then maybe start 3 months after that, and then sell for about 6 months. So let's say we did that in this last cycle. If you went 6 months from here, it would be, 6 months from, what am I saying? When we hit the new all-time high, 3 months after that would be like right here. And then you'd sell over the next 6 months, which would put you like right in front of this all-time high, that $69,000 mark. The cycle before, if you wait to the all-time high, and then 3 months after that, then sell for 6 months, you'd be hitting like all these new all-time highs, which is going to be when you don't want to sell. Hopefully that's clear. But wait a couple months, or I'm going to wait a couple months until we or a couple months after we hit the new all-time high, wait a couple months then, and then sell over 6 months, give or take. But that's going to be when you don't feel like selling. That's going to be when like the most bullish news is coming out, when we've already hit a new all-time high. Maybe we're at 80,000 or 100,000. Everyone's getting in. All the billionaires are getting in. Everyone's stacking. BlackRock just said allocate 5% of your portfolio. We put it in all these target date funds. that's typically when you want to be selling, is when the most bullish news is coming out. But I plan on selling all my alts, plan on selling probably about half my Bitcoin and then keep half of it.
That's not so okay. So let's break that down, because first of all, it's a great chart. Everybody, I will repost that. That's from the Rational Root. I think it's called the circular Bitcoin chart or something like that.
Bitcoin spiral, yeah.
Bitcoin spiral, excuse me. So let's break it down. So Sam talks about selling 50% of his Bitcoin. Some people, again, will say, don't sell any of it. And of course, Peter Schiff's like, don't buy any of it. So really, there has to be a happy medium in some way, shape, or form. And really, this is why, like, when we say not financial advice, and I say I'm not your dad, so I can't tell you what to do, this is really the truth, because there's nobody who can tell you what is important for you. If you have a massive amount of debt and you're getting crushed from, if Sam would have gone all the way through to medical school, he probably had crushing debt as far as student debt. And of course, you would have put things on credit cards. Let's say you have a 20-something% credit card debt, right? Or let's say that you, I don't know, need a new kidney or something like that. You're like, I can't sell my Bitcoin because I've got 2 kidneys and I'll stay off dialysis for as long as I can. So it comes down to what you really want to do with it. And like we've always said, happiness, or wealth, I should say, is not being told what to do and when to do it. And you can do whatever you want at the time that you want and not have to answer to any person out there. And that is wealth. And that is because you can take control of your time. So Bitcoin can give you those things, but Bitcoin is not those things. So I want to make that crystal clear. Mm-hmm. So Sam, when you're saying like, okay, 50%, why hold on to 50%? Why don't you just sell the whole stack and be done with it? Like, boom, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think there's some relevancy, or there's definitely a chance that we don't have a drop like we saw in the previous bear markets, like how you said that we may have a cycle that's different, right? This time may be different in the sense that we've never had retirement accounts allocate towards Bitcoin. We haven't had large institutions like BlackRock, Fidelity, those types of companies jump into crypto. We might just see continuous inflows. If it really does go into retirement accounts and people are buying, or the retirement accounts are buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin every week or every day, there's definitely a chance that we see maybe a 30 or 40% drop, but we never see that 80% drop. And when I look at the long-term trajectory of Bitcoin, do I want to have less than, 5 or 10% allocation in my overall net worth? Probably not. So I want to make sure that I hold some of it, and enough that if we continue in the cycle, if we go up to $1 million Bitcoin or $500,000 Bitcoin or something, and we never see that full drop, I want to make sure that I still have an allocation to it, because I know part of it is psychology, and that if I sell my entire bag and then we move up a little bit more, it'll be difficult. It'll be difficult watching that. And I know myself too well. Like, I don't want to see us go up another 2x and think, oh, wow, I really screwed up. I need to buy some of it back, then buy at a bad time. Or we do go down and then I think we're going to go down further. So then I don't allocate enough. Like, I just want to be as emotionless as possible when it comes to this. And I think holding some is a happy medium.
I got it. I got to agree. And it all comes down to, of course, what you want to do. And we're going to keep hearing bullish news. Like, this just broke a couple of days ago. This was, actually, no, this would be Sam's. Let me add mine. Morgan Stanley. It looks like they're going to get into the Bitcoin spot ETF hoopla. 1.3 trillion asset manager is considering adding this to their portfolio and adding it to their customers. So we have one more massive group getting into ETFs. And of course, that's on top of the other 8 or 9 or however many it is and how much is actually going through. Right now, you can't get more bullish than this unless some other nation state comes out and says, we're going to make Bitcoin as legal tender. I think the only thing else that can get bigger than that will be if the United States says, you know what, we're going to back the dollar with Bitcoin. Once that happens, Sam will be very happy that he kept 50%. And then he was able to use the other 50% to pay off everything that he probably wants to in his entire life. So I can definitely see that. But Sam, it was a good piece. I appreciate just taking a look at that. But let's move from Bitcoin to alts, because your show is great on Bitcoin. And there was a really good one where you had a really good point. It was talking about rentals It's funny. Rentals are worse than Bitcoin. And so we did this piece where, we talked about this before, is we bought a condo here in Puerto Rico. It was for 240. This is in June of 2020. If I would have put that 240,000 into Bitcoin, it'd been worth 1.8 million right now. I missed the boat on that one. But of course, if I would have done the same thing in November or December of 2021, I would have been at the same price point. So it really would have made a difference. But you've got a pretty good knack of talking about altcoins and ones that do pretty well. So talk to us about what your altcoin plays are, because if you're 70% into Bitcoin, what's the other 30?
Yeah. So just full disclaimer, obviously I own some of these. I will sell some of these when the market goes up. Like, I'm not a diamond hander. I'm gonna sit on this for 30 years or anything like that. No, I'm buying altcoins to make more US dollars and to make it easier to buy Bitcoin during the bear market. So just know that ahead of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I do hold a good amount of Ethereum. I think there's a narrative there for the next bull market. I still think that Ethereum is decent technology. It's more widely adopted than any other L1 at this point. There's more total value locked. You're going to have the Denkun upgrade, which could lower some fees. I know you posted on your Twitter the other day about how expensive the fees are. And I was looking at the same thing. I was trying to time it because I had like $100-something fee. But I think that will get improved. And I do know that there's a possibility of the Ethereum ETF. I don't know if it will be as successful. I almost know that it won't be as successful as the Bitcoin ETF. There isn't as much demand for it yet, but that could push up the price of Ethereum. So I do have some Ethereum. Yeah, I have that as probably the next largest part of my portfolio. I was an early investor in Inspect, which is like a layer 2 for Twitter. Yeah, that did quite well. I think it went up 15x or something like that. It's been pretty stagnant since it came out, like going between 16 cents and 32 cents, back and forth, back and forth.
But let me say, when Inspect came out, that was during the bear, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like right in between. Yeah, like Bitcoin was maybe 30,000 or something.
Oh, I remember when Cardano was 3 cents. I remember when Ethereum was $100. I remember when Solana was $50, $1, $2, something crazy like that. So, I mean, who knows where it could go? And if everybody's looking, this would be Inspect. So when you're on X, this actually comes up sometimes if you download it, and it looks like you can look at the data behind NFTs and different projects. And it was a pretty good one. Actually, on this one, I actually passed on it because I was like, I don't get it, which is what I do a lot. But it looks like it did pretty well. Well, actually, this is 24 hours. Let's go over 3 months, 30 days. Not bad. Yeah. All right. 21 cents. I'll take it.
Yeah.
What is it before? 17 cents. Yeah.
And it's one of those things too, where it's a new cryptocurrency. So even just holding its value is pretty good, because a lot of the time tokens are unlocked. Like, we see this a lot where there's some big token drop, it spikes up, or TG listing, it spikes up and then it falls and crashes. And then sometimes the projects just die. Inspect hasn't done that. They've continued to publish more and more information, get partnerships. So even it just staying around the same price is probably pretty bullish for this next bull run. But from there, there's more DEGEN stuff. Obviously,
let's hear it.
Yeah. So obviously I have some Ethereum, some Solana, I have some Chainlink, like all the normal L1s, big stuff. There are some smaller cryptocurrencies. And again, like, I know that it's difficult to understand what some of these things do. A lot of cryptocurrencies are way over my head. Even if I spend half an hour, like, I don't really understand. I don't think it's going to get huge adoption, some of these cryptocurrencies. Not the ones I'm talking about today, but like, there's just a lot that do well, and you can't catch every pump. So that's important to remember. Like, the FOMO is going to be real. There are going to be 99. Yeah, there are going to be 99 cryptos that go and pump up 10x, and you're probably not investing in any of them, maybe one of them. And that's okay, because otherwise the easiest way to lose money during a bull run is to go from one thing that hasn't pumped to something that has pumped. And then your original asset goes and pumps, and then you try to get back into it, and you just keep on losing money. So yeah, I'm sticking with some of these. One that I had bought is Sync is DAO. It's
I don't know. What is that?
Yeah, it's small. It's a borrowing and lending platform. with
All
some
right.
Ponzi-nomics to it. So it's about as DEGEN as it gets. Like they were actually talking about that. Like that was part of their pitch, is
Mhm.
that it was a Ponzi for a while. Like basically there's a fee. It's very Safe Moon-esque in that there's a fee when you buy and sell, and then they have a treasury, and those fees go to the treasury, and then they go buy back their token. But they do have like a mechanism to let you borrow and lend,
Okay.
and they're using the fees on the platform to then get paid back to stakers. It's pretty high risk. It keeps on hitting all-time highs. It's definitely one though that like you don't invest in it because you think it's going to necessarily going to change the world or anything. Like you kind of have to realize that you're getting into something that's super high risk, super high reward. Um,
Mhm.
the people behind it, like I've talked to several people that are interested or they're invested in it, and they have like huge conviction in it. Like not just pumping their own bags. They like when it's falling, they're like, no, we really think this is going to be huge. If you don't want to work with us, that's fine. We don't care. That kind of thing. Like they are super bullish about it.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? So before, so these are, first of all, before I look that up real quick.
Yep.
So talk to us, these plays that you're talking about when you say it's super degen, like,
Yep.
is that like, you're like, okay, 30% of my portfolio is going to go into this degen play, or like, what kind of percentage are we talking about?
Yeah, good question. So with this one, it was less than a percent. I
Nice.
think it was around a percent when I got into it, but it's up significantly. So it's several percent now, but still 70% Bitcoin now. But like Inspect went up 15x since I invested in it.
Shoot.
So yeah, that quarter percent or something that I had is now 2 or 3%. So it is one of those things where sometimes they grow to be larger percentages, but I'm not putting in like even CeDeFi. I bought CeDeFi when it was around $1. I got bullish
Ooh.
on CeDeFi. Yeah, now it's
Mhm.
$4. I
That's
only
a
heard
nice
about
play.
yeah, I had heard about them last bull market, but I didn't buy. And then I only started looking at them this bull market because they reached out about working together. I'm like, oh, I should take a deep dive in this, obviously. And then I was like, oh wow, I really want to be invested in a launch pad like CeDeFi for the next bull run. So I started buying it when I started working with them around $1, and everything that I got paid, like all the mentions and stuff.
Mhm.
Obviously, I always disclose that. I pretty much just put it into CeDeFi. I bought the token with all our work together, and then
Yeah.
bought through the dip. But yeah, I mean, that's grown to be a significant portion of my portfolio too, or more significant. But I dollar cost average on those types of cryptos. Like I'm not going out there and buying a 5% allocation of any crypto and just letting it sit. Like I'll dollar cost it into it over time.
When you dollar cost average, what platform are you using? Because that's a big contention for me. Because I mean, we're both in the USA. I have to use Coinbase, but do you use anything else?
So it depends what it is. Like CeDeFi can't buy on Coinbase. A lot of
Mhm.
these cryptos you can't buy on Coinbase, so you might have to use Uniswap or PancakeSwap. For anyone that doesn't know this, or anyone that's probably watching this a month into the future for the first time, or if you're first time in crypto, like the easiest way to figure out where to buy cryptos, just go to them on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, scroll down, and you can see where you can actually buy them. But generally, my on and off ramp is through Coinbase, and that's
Mhm.
where the majority of it's happening. But there are hot wallets that I use, cold wallets, exchanges. Uh, Unfortunately, there's not one platform that can do it all right now. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot of work transferring everything around and making sure that you can buy all these different allocations.
Man, it is a lot, and that's the thing for like getting people in, because it's easy for them to do like a centralized exchange, but like we were talking about the fees for Ethereum. I will say this, like for like Uniswap, I mean, there's some reasonably high fees depending on what you're getting into. But actually, when I was going to move things from Coinbase to my Tangent wallet, the fees were like, it was only like $8 or $9 or something like that for Ethereum, which is actually pretty good right now. But it's kind of laughable, even if you think about crypto and what really should be done. So I think I need to do a video on this, but it looks like the exchanges, either they're eating some costs to do that, because if I'm doing like wallet to wallet is one thing, right? And then MetaMask is god awful. But it seems like especially with Coinbase, it's very low. But I could be wrong there. I don't know.
Yeah, I know some exchanges batch out transactions too. Like I've worked with an exchange before that will send out multiple transactions at one time. So I think they can lower the fees that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting to think about that too. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. But one of the big selling points of cryptocurrency is that you can self-custody. And a lot of people will not be able to self-custody in the future because it's going to get too expensive. Like even people are going to be priced out of buying Bitcoin and holding it themselves. If they buy, $100 worth of Bitcoin, there's only so many transactions that can go through at certain prices. And we're already seeing like transaction prices go up. A couple months ago, I was looking, it was $40 to send Bitcoin somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. You can actually go on the Bitcoin rich list and you can see dust like different wallets that just have too little Bitcoin to even withdraw it. And even if you have a couple $100 worth of Bitcoin, to do a $40 fee is probably not worth it. So years in the future, when countries are buying Bitcoin, they're sending Bitcoin, they're willing to pay $10,000 fee to get it done quickly. You're going to be priced out. Like you're going to be priced off self-custody. So that's another reason that these ETFs are actually kind of a nice thing for a lot of people is you can go buy $10 and not have the friction of the fees, but then also sending it somewhere and keeping it safe. So that's going to be something weird to think about for a lot of people.
That's gonna be one problem, and then the other problem is teaching people about cold storage and how to do it and how to make it easy. Like for me, like when I got in, it was Ledger or nothing essentially, and that was pretty much it. And then there was Trezor and some other stuff like that. But me personally, like I use Tangem, the wallet. I just like using it. It's very simple. I got my cards right here. Actually, check this out. I got these digital asset news cards. Oh yeah, very nice. But watch your toes dropping names. But like these types of cards make it so simple and like even like my mom can do it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But like you said, Sam, if we've got somebody who's got that high in fees, it's gonna be a big, huge problem. And then before we go on and talk about more alts, I just like to make one comment, which is I know Sam might have not talked about your particular altcoin, and that happens. But just remember, on this channel, we do the same thing. And even though sometimes I talk about your coin and you believe that I'm the most honest person out there, but when I start to talk about something else, you're like, why is Rob talking about that scam coin? Look, for what it's worth, let's just be honest. A lot of these coins suck. They don't do anything. And there really has no real utility, and they're going to go to zero. And I hate to say that, but I think most of the market is, I would say it would be two things. It's hype and speculation, but I'm wrong. It's three things. It's hype, speculation, and greed. And for all the altcoins out there that maybe you might say is like the best thing of all time, chances are it's not. So let's just get that out of the way and just say that it's just important to take profits. And that's it. I know it's not the most, of course, likable comment, but I have to be honest with everybody. Because if not, I'm just a lying shill. Anyhow, so Sam, anything else as far as like altcoins that you're invested into and why you like them?
Yeah. So just going back to what you said for a second, I feel like after you've been like the first cycle that you go into cryptocurrency, you're like, this is going to change the world. Second cycle, you're like, how can I make money? Like, I know this is a Ponzi, that's a Ponzi, but can I get in early enough? Like, is this musical chairs? And even Bitcoin, in a sense, is musical chairs. Like we're talking about when to time the cycle. Like how do you sell out before other people? Can you get out before other people and not lose out on the upside? That is the goal. So even Bitcoin, like everyone wants to be self-righteous and never sell. And they think that their crypto is going to change the world. But if I told you tomorrow is going to go down 50% or 90%, you would sell it in a second. But people don't think that in the bull market. They just are married to it.
No, they don't. There are some people that are like, I'm never going to sell. And actually, like, okay, Simon Dixon, been on the channel. I love that guy. He's a great guy, great human being. He's done great things for Celsius creditors. And he told me when he got into Bitcoin in 2011, his only goal was to have more Bitcoin at the end of the month. And it worked out pretty well for him. And then he said, I screwed up one time and I put it into Celsius. And he goes, and that was the time that I went against my rules. Now here we are. And I think there's always going to be people that just say like, I'm going to put this in because I am financially stable. I don't really need this. This is going to go to my kids, my grandkids, and I'm just going to hold on to it for them. And that's great. And people can do that. And then some people, like we talked about, I have to like, look, nothing goes up forever. I'm going to take some profits along the way because I don't want to do the round trip again. I'm tired of this and I need to take some profits. And then other people are just like, I'm just going to get into tomato coin and let's see how high I can go or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think one piece of advice for people is if you are one of those people that wants to buy and hold forever and you're okay with that, do it with Bitcoin. Don't do it with some altcoin, like some top 20 altcoin or something further down the line. Like if you want to do that, if you want to hold this for your kids, go buy Bitcoin instead of some altcoin because it's much less risky. And I get this, like I get like from a fundamental level or psychological level why people feel like they need to hold on to altcoins because they're part of a community or something. Or even when you break down just like the psychology or the physiology of it, like, okay, this thing goes up in value. It gives me dopamine. I want to keep on getting that dopamine. I hold this so that it keeps on going up in value. And if I sell it, then I miss out. So like people just don't want that to happen. But
I don't want that to happen. That's true, Sam.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's difficult, but there's always a price. There should always be a price that you would sell something at, unless I'm just crazy here, but there's always a price for people. So I guess moving back into some altcoins, I know some of these are ones that you've looked at, but I am going to be getting some Ivan Pay tokens. This is
I got into that myself because I always felt like, because for payments to, and like this actually comes from, I was talking to my friend Steven who owns the San Juan Smokehouse here. He takes Bitcoin through the Lightning Network and it's great. But he said, he goes, sometimes people come in, they're like, hey, do you take Cardano? No, I don't take Cardano. Hey, do you take Solana? I don't take Solana. Hey, do you take this or that? He goes, I'd like to take them, but then I got to have 1,000 wallets. I'm not going to do that. And that's why I thought it'd be a good thing for Ivan Pay, because they could just like, especially aggregate all the different cryptos and go, just send it to this one. And then it just goes there. And then of course it automatically transcribes into dollars when you need it. And then of course, if you want to transfer back into Bitcoin or crypto, you can. I thought it was a great idea, but you got into it as well.
Yes. Yep. So I am thinking the same thing as you. And if I remember right, it's backed by Binance, or they're working with Binance as well. They have a bunch of locations. So I think this one will probably do pretty well. We're getting to an interesting part in the cycle too, where people are looking for these cryptos that will do well, that are more DEGEN, that are launching. And there are going to be some that do 100Xs. They're like, we've already seen Satoshi VM, which did
I remember that one.
100 or 1,000X, something like that. And people got pissed off because there's some stuff happening in the background and it fell. That's really, I think, why most people get pissed off, is when it falls. And they were the ones buying the top, but
exactly.
Something you have to, something you have to guard yourself against is buying something when it's up 150X in an hour or two. But so Ivan Pay is one that I'm looking at. Alvaro, which is listing tomorrow on Uniswap, is one that I'm investing into as well. And I think that'll do well. It's a decentralized hedge fund. There's still a lot of people that can't invest in cryptocurrencies. Like, sure, they might be able to buy Bitcoin now, but for other cryptocurrencies, it's too difficult for them to figure it out. So I think Alvaro could be useful, even just from like if you wanted to change allocations or you want to follow someone else's allocation, it could be good. And obviously they have a huge total addressable market. And I know that you've talked about them before on your channel too.
Yeah, just real quick, because people are like, well, who gives a crap about a hedge fund? Here's the thing about a hedge fund. And it kind of goes like this, like our buddy Gary Gensler. This is right from the SEC's website. And I talked about Alvaro, and I actually used this in what I was talking about. I go, the thing with hedge funds, that you got to be an accredited investor. And essentially it's penalizing people who haven't made enough yet. So it's like going, look, you're not in the club. You're not going to be in the club. We're going to make sure you're not in the club. So you have to make 200,000 plus a year for 2 years. Joint income's got to be 300,000, and your net worth has to be 1 million, and it can't be your primary house. So essentially what's that saying is like, look, if you don't have money, good luck making money. And that's what Alvaro tried to, to actually do and bring forth the people is like, you could be your own hedge fund, essentially like that. But the problem that I saw, there was twofold. One is nobody was talking about it. And the second one is that it was an ERC 7621, which didn't even exist. They thought, okay, we're going to make a basket that you can get into and make it super simple, but we have to have the Ethereum Foundation actually approve it. And when I talked to the head of the project, I go, if this doesn't go through, this thing's not going to happen. They go, yeah, we know, we think it is. I was like, okay, I'll talk about it. And of course, they got to go through somehow. So it's looking pretty good, and people are talking about it more. So I'm happy. Yep,
definitely. So that's coming tomorrow. Obviously, with any of these, like if you're looking at it and think, oh, wow, that sounds really interesting, probably the best thing to do is go research it more. Like, don't just ape in because it's going up. Like I said, like if it's going up 10x, 50x, 100x, it's probably not the best time to be buying. And as I said earlier, like you're going to miss out on a lot of cryptos that do really well. That's okay. That's what always happens. Like I've missed out on way more than I've actually gotten. But also you protect some downside if you research it a little bit more and you're a little bit more highly convicted than just number go up. But I'm sure that your audience knows that. I know that you talk about that stuff a lot and making sure that you're careful on initial pumps and stuff like that. But that's kind of my altcoin portfolio that I'm looking at now. I'm investing in a lot more than that, but I could go on all day. But I know, like for a lot of people, like I said, like a lot of people will be coming into crypto and they want to know, how much should I buy or something like that. I think I made a video just recently, like how much should you buy? And I think it's important for people to realize that everyone's situation is different. But I did copy you, Rob. I did copy a video that you made, I think a few months ago, talk about the best Bitcoin explanation ever. Altcoin Daily also made it. But I'm having more and more people reach out about what Bitcoin is. My wife the other day asked me like, oh, if you can't spend Bitcoin, what good is it? Like what gives it value? Which was weird because she never asked me about cryptocurrency. She doesn't want to hear about it because I talk about it all day anyways. But like I stole that because I think it was a really good video. But there are just going to be so many people that start wondering where to buy cryptocurrency, how to buy it, what they should buy. I think a good starter is buying like 1% allocation in Bitcoin. Don't go for all these altcoins that we're just talking about. Like if you're just starting to buy cryptocurrency, these are probably too risky for you. But maybe start with like 1% allocation to Bitcoin or a few $100s or something like that. I think that's a good starting point. And then you can dive into all these other altcoins after you spend some time just understanding even the volatility and the risks of Bitcoin in the first place.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I got to agree. And like talking about that, I think it's the easiest thing to talk about as far as like, well, why get into Bitcoin? Why do this? Because people, I remember, a couple of years ago, like, do we really need this? And this was back in 2021, actually 2020, when I got a lot of questions going in 2021 because it was kind of, taking off. And they said, because we're getting these stimmy checks and everything's good. I mean, dollar's fine. And I was like, well, in other countries, if Turkey lira and Venezuelan, they're like, yeah. But, in America, we're fine right now. We're printing our way and we're good to go. And now I think people are actually understanding it. And actually, to piggyback on what you said, I think it was Jeff Booth. And he said it very well. And he said, look, if you don't hold Bitcoin, all your prices are going up. If you denominate in Bitcoin, prices are coming down. And that's it. That's really all you got to say. And then when people say, that doesn't make any sense because we can just print our way out of it. Well, all you got to do is just say, look, those house prices, how'd they do? How'd that do for you? Did the rate that you're getting paid go up equally or not? Go to the grocery store. Go to any type of merchandise that you're talking about. Now, I can take that same house in 2019. It would probably cost me over 60 Bitcoin. You know how much an average typical house of 440,000 costs me right now? It costs me under 9 Bitcoin. I go, so as time goes on, just think of it like that. And America, as great as it is, I love America, but the inflation is, and of course the money printing, it can't get any worse. So,
yeah. And the reason Bitcoin's going up in terms of value compared to other assets is just because it's swallowing up market share. Like people have money to put in, either keep in US dollars or put in treasuries or put in the stock market or put in real estate. They're deciding, instead of putting it in XYZ, I'm going to put it in Bitcoin. And that's why the price goes up. And I saw like there are different charts out there that show like, okay, if Bitcoin takes 10% market share from XYZ, real estate,
Mhm.
art, jewelry, all that kind of stuff, what does that add on to Bitcoin's price? And the numbers get nuts. Like I
It does.
watched
You're right.
Mark Moss. He made a video. He's got a big channel,
Oh yeah.
and he's bullish on Bitcoin, but he's pretty well respected. And he made a video on how Bitcoin can hit $43 billion a coin last week. And he goes through the math of it. It's just purely math based. It's not like he thinks it's necessarily going to do that, but he goes through, and I made a video on it too on my channel, like explaining what he said basically. But yeah, if Bitcoin keeps on taking market share away from other assets, it's going to go up a lot. And that's why you want, I mean, first of all, it has value because it can transfer value across the world and there's no trusted third party.
Mhm.
It's divisible. It's better money than US dollars. But the reason it keeps on going up in value is because it's swallowing up market share from other things. And, you know, whether you think Bitcoin's going to hit 1 million or 500,000 or a billion, you probably want some allocation towards it if you're thinking long term.
Yeah, and that's why, like, when we talked about like selling a little bit of Bitcoin, you know, as time goes, you know, across a continuum, because you know, you're like, hey, I got some bills to pay, I got things to do, I want to, you know, pay off this or do that. If you're 50%er and sell it, or if you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep 20% for my hodl bag, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see it as being, you know, awful, especially if we go to 1 million per Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
But I will say this, just to piggyback on what you said about, you know, what Mark Moss talked about and, you know, how much it could actually go, because things could potentially get nuts. This is one of my favorite charts to show everybody. And right now, most of the people that have been on my channel are groaning like, ugh, this chart again. But stick with me because it's always fun for me to look at. So this one square is 100 billion. This was in March of 2022 before Sam Bankman, scam Wankman fraud, went to jail. He had $1 billion. That was his net worth, that little square. Professional sports team, that's not that much. 1, 2, 3.5. Cryptocurrency was back to 760 billion. Now we're at, what are we at, 2.3 trillion? Yeah. Somewhere around there. Russian USA, I don't really care about this. This is what I care about. Gold, 11.5 trillion. Do you think we could take, I don't know, 10%, 5% of that? And if we take something like that, what if we took some from the stock market? And people are like, you know, the returns aren't that great. And here's the S&P 500, $36 trillion. Maybe we could take something out of that, especially out of the Magnificent Seven, the S&P 500. The money supply, maybe people don't want to use different money supply that's out there, or narrow money, $49 trillion. The world stock market, that's over $100 trillion. Global debt, maybe people or countries are tired of buying the assets or the bonds that is being issued by the United States and going, you know what, 300 trillion, maybe we could put that into Bitcoin. And maybe we get 1%. Government sector, I don't care about that. Residential, 326 trillion. Maybe people like myself who have figured it out, like, man, it's a real pain in the A to buy all this real estate. Maybe I put that into Bitcoin. Again, 0.5, 1%, 2%, I don't know. Global wealth, 463 trillion, all these billionaires out there and millionaires. And then there's one that I really like, derivatives. I always think this chart is broke because you got derivatives, notional value, and it's a quadrillion. I didn't know that word actually existed. So that's futures, forwards, options, warrants, swaps, and all that stuff. So let's just take 1 to 2% of that, and now we get crazy. Now the numbers get insane. And it's not just because you put $1 billion into Bitcoin, it goes up by, you know, that market cap. It's because everything's finite and it's actual an exponential value. So maybe things do get crazy. I could be wrong though, but it's good. And that was the most bullish, thing I've said in like months.
Yeah, people are going to clip that. But
that's not
compared
good.
to some of those other channels. I mean, I saw the head of macro at Fidelity years ago said that Bitcoin could hit $1 billion just by Metcalfe's law. So there are people that are more bullish on than you even on that. But I wanted to hit on what you just said there. Like, one, those numbers are outdated. I'm not giving you a hard time, but like, think about how much those have changed even over the last 2 years or something since all those numbers were correct. Like, I think some of those large companies are now twice the market cap that they were on that chart. So Bitcoin goes up also because everything goes up, because the dollar goes down in value. The country keeps on printing more money. So Bitcoin is going to go up, even if it just stays like the same amount of dominance of global assets. But the other side of it too is something that I think you hit there on the end. If, let's say, $100 billion comes from real estate, like you sell $100 billion or someone sells $100 billion and puts into Bitcoin, that doesn't cause the market cap of Bitcoin to go up $100 billion. Like if someone goes and buys $10 billion 10 times, that shoots up the market cap. So if you start taking some of those assets into Bitcoin and just buying chunks of Bitcoin, it's so illiquid that the market cap skyrockets in price. So you don't necessarily need, $1 trillion to come out of real estate to cause the market cap of Bitcoin to go up $1 trillion. No, it's going to take a lot less than that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Damn it, Sam! Don't say that. You're gonna make me FOMO and start to buy more Bitcoin. I've bought a lot of Bitcoin over the last 2 years. Yeah. So everybody, if you got questions for Sam, everything's open. I'm gonna take some questions beforehand that we came up there. Tommy says both these guys are quality. Tom knows what he's talking about. Actually, great channel. I don't know why he cannot hit 100K. He should be over 100K by now. He's been struggling. He's been wanting that for a while. So if you guys could do me a favor and go to Tom's channel, subscribe to him. He does great stuff. He's always good. And let's see, Jeff Leopard says this is an ad. Potentially, it is an ad. I mean, for crypto and digital assets, that's for sure. And of course, everything that we and Sam just talked about, we own them, right, Sam?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
And we probably will sell them at some point too.
We probably will. Hajami says, empty your bank accounts, move to Bitcoin, all in. This guy is in Bitcoin only for the gains. No, I think so. I think like Sam talked about, and I believe too, is, you get in at the price you deserve and you get in for the reasons that you want to be. So some people get in because they're like, look, I'm in dire straits and the things that I invest into, they suck. I have a savings account that gives me 0.2%. That's not going to get me to financial stability. So I got to get into something else. And then you have to get on your feet and you have to get stable. And after you're stable, then, like Sam talked about, you takes your first run to really kind of figure it out. And the second run, you do better. And the third run, essentially you do your best. So for me, I just think everybody's on a continuum. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, hopefully we never say to go all in. Sometimes, we might say that in a title or something because the underlying information is important. So we want to draw you to the video. But yeah, it's probably not a good idea to go all in Bitcoin. I mean, from a number standpoint, yeah, if you could have gone 100% Bitcoin for whenever you've made money, yeah, you wouldn't probably be here listening to this video anymore. You'd be sitting on a beach or doing whatever you want to do. But yeah, from a psychology standpoint, it's usually not good to go all in Bitcoin because then you'll probably have a lot of stress.
I have a lot of stress, but like I will say it actually worked out pretty damn well for my friend Diddy from the Bitcoin family. That son of a gun. He did it. He sold his cars, his house, his business at the beginning of the 2017 run when it was like $1,000. And now he just lives on the beach with his kids. But you got to remember, like, what did that give him? Bitcoin, I'm sure Biddy probably sold a little bit along the way to get to where he wants to be. He doesn't answer anybody. He lives on the beach. He does what he wants to do. He doesn't have to, show up to a job. I think that's the best thing. Yeah, and then, yeah, I think so. And then there was this one, Mr. Conundrum says, don't sell. Big boys don't sell Bitcoin. You borrow against it, save on taxes. Sam, what do you think?
I think it's easier to do this safely now with the Bitcoin ETFs. Like I don't know if we talked about it before we started or after we started filming, but I have been buying some of the Bitcoin ETFs because I would much rather borrow through Fidelity than borrow through some DeFi lending platform or something like that. Like it'd be much easier just to buy the Bitcoin ETF during the next bear market or bull market. If I need a little bit of liquidity, which I probably won't, I could always borrow against it there a lot easier. But the tough thing is it's so volatile that if you borrow against it, let's say you borrow 30% of your Bitcoin and we're at $300,000. If we go through a 80% correction, you're going to lose that Bitcoin, or you're going to have to put more money in there to cover. So I don't love the idea of borrowing against it unless you really need to. I'd rather just take a little bit of profit, not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I hate that idea because everybody knows my stance on, well, your stance right there of, if you have it in an ETF with Fidelity, you can borrow against it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently. Okay. That's
A
great. But
portfolio loan.
yeah, but like you say, like if you get margin called, you have to keep adding and adding and adding. And if you're upside down on your loan and whatever you put it into, then you have problems. Me, I did a loan through Celsius. And of course, we all know what happened there, right? Huge, huge, huge mistake. I'm not a fan of borrowing against it. And another thing I'm not a fan of is not your keys, not your crypto. So like like Sam, you can do the ETF, I will never do an ETF. And but like I said, on this journey, everybody is different. So I will just say, for me, not happening. JWeb3 says, one mullet, if you're in the space to make money, why are you a part of a boomer normie channel? I guess we're talking about this one. I am a boomer. Well, not really, but look, as time, I told this to everybody, Sam, I said, as time goes on, I start talking about selling, I'm going to be called a couple of things. First, a boomer. Then I'm going to be called paper hands for sure. And then I'm going to say, you don't know what you're talking about. And then, if we do crash, which maybe we do or not, then of course people say, man, maybe that guy did know. Eric's got a question for you. Any favorite book you recommend?
Yeah, so I'm not a huge reader. I just feel like it takes a long time and it's kind of dull. One book that I really liked, actually one that got me really interested in finance in the first place, was actually the Tony Robbins books. They're super simple, but basically like how compounding works. So if you've got a kid that doesn't really know how investing works, that's pretty inspirational. And then one that I found that was just pretty entertaining, I think I finished it in a day or two, was Bitcoin Billionaires. It's the story of the Winklevoss twins. And them starting to learn about Bitcoin early in the day, like Mt. Gox era, what they did, scouring their private keys and encrypted keys through like 3 different safety deposit boxes across the US and like all that stuff. So that's pretty entertaining.
That's good. That is really good. The recent book I read, it was Moonwalking with Einstein, which it was a collection of a gentleman who went through it was super memory training. There's like these memory training competitions, and how he went from having a very poor memory to having a very good memory. And besides, yeah, it was a pretty entertaining one. Then the recent one that I always check out is Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations for Stoicism, just to kind of center myself a little bit before I get too much over myself, because I make tons of mistakes. All right, let's see. And Marky, the legend, says, Sam, what's your favorite crypto gaming? Are you into gaming, Web3 gaming, or not too much?
Yeah, so I personally like mobile gaming. I don't think I've had anything since the Wii, like in terms of gaming consoles.
Oh, the Wii was awesome.
Yeah. So I think the gaming narrative is going to be big. I think probably the thing that I'm allocated most towards is Cetify, because I don't really necessarily want to pick all the biggest games. I think just a launch pad. And I know you've talked about Tencent before. Like, I'm big into the launch pads because I don't want to have to pick the individual project that does well. I'd rather have some kind of infrastructure or launch pad that benefits from it. So
makes sense.
Kind of boring there. Yeah.
No, that's pretty good. And then and guys, we're coming up on an hour, so we'll just do a couple ones. And LeBron's got a question or statement. If everyone is expecting a crash, does that mean we're going higher? Good question. Sam, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, usually the market moves in the opposite way that people expect. I don't think everyone is expecting a crash. When I look at Twitter, it does make me bullish that some people still think we're going down. Like, there are some people shorting the market. There are some people that think we're going lower. As soon as they flip bullish, that's when we might want to sound some alarm signals. But the ETFs have changed the game, and that, like, if you look since that first initial drop after the ETFs were approved, which obviously some people just bought waiting for the ETFs to be approved, like, there have not been dips, maybe a few $1,000s of consolidation ranging, but it just swallowed up so much Bitcoin. It's really hard to see what's going to happen going forward. Like, do we see 30% drops in the bull market? Probably. But there's just so much buying, and it can switch, it can flip, but there are some entities that are starting to buy too. Like financial advisors take a while to approve it for compliance and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine whether we crash 20% or whether we go up to a new all-time high in the next month.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Yeah, I'll just defer to you on that one. This is a good one. Jason says, question, this is my second cycle. If somebody makes it. It's very tough to get to that first one because that's when you get wrecked the hardest. Wrote it up and down the last time. That's like everybody else. Don't want to make the same mistake. When I sell Bitcoin, what's the best swap? USDT, USDC, or out to a bank account in fiat? What do you think?
I think it depends probably where you're at. In the US, it's probably best, in my opinion, to just go to a bank account. But it depends on the numbers you're working with too. Like if you have $10 million worth of Bitcoin, it might be hard to get it into a bank account.
It's true.
Like it might take too long to withdraw. And I know some people have that issue, but for other people, $200 is pretty easy. So depends on your own situation. If I had the choice between USDC or USDT or a bank, I'd feel better in a bank as long as I'm below that FDIC limit. But who knows? Yeah. What are your thoughts, Rob?
No, I mean, I just same thing. If you have the ability to put it into cash, because stables are great, but like you said in the very beginning, they're stable, except for the ones that aren't. Yeah, like your UST for your Luna. I mean, that was a travesty. How many people lost massive amounts of money? I mean, last cycle was a real wake up call, and I just, when I look at it, I think to me, USDC is probably the safest because it's backed 1-to-1 and they have everything open. Tether, as much as people talk about it, even myself, they're still around and they're still minting like crazy. So I would just do USDC, maybe a little Tether if somebody needs it, but fiat if I have to. But again, when you get out of crypto and Bitcoin or whatever you're doing, just remember that you're never going to get off this merry-go-round. You're going to have to keep allocating funds into assets because unless, what are you doing? You're putting into money and it's just melting because of inflation. I don't think America is going to stop printing anytime soon. And then last one, well, actually, there's a comment that makes me want to think more about when I talk about retirements and the ETFs. Placebo Gazebo, that's funny. He says, I have my Bitcoin Fidelity retirement account. And then Steven says, many have not woken up yet the ability to put retirement account funds into a Bitcoin ETF. That will be a big wave. I just did it 2 weeks ago, a major win for me. And it is a major win. In the beginning, I was talking about how I never do it, but, just talking to what you said, Sam, and to these two gentlemen, maybe I could soften my position a little bit. Makes sense.
I mean, it makes it easier to take profits too. If they really do go up 1-to-1 with Bitcoin and you want to avoid some taxes, but you want to take some off the table, like that's a nice way of not having to deal with the tax man right away.
Yeah. Oh, everybody loves that. And then last question, as we're coming out to it, it's April 20th. Will the halving be a sell the news event based on the history of Bitcoin, or will it just be business as usual and then we march off to the all-time highs?
I think that the day of, it might be a sell the news event, but just like the ETFs, it's fundamentally bullish for Bitcoin because there's less sold. It's not some piece of news that doesn't matter. It does matter, and it changes. It changes because there's 450 less Bitcoin every single day that's going to be sold. And what do the miners do? They sell. Like eventually they sell. It doesn't matter if they're holding now. They sell at some point because they need to cover costs. So yeah, it just changes. 93.5% of all Bitcoin in existence has been mined over the last 15 years. And now we have 6.5% for the next 117 years. So this is like a massive changing point in how much Bitcoin there is. And there's just not much liquid left. So yeah, it does change. What about you?
Get behind. No, same thing. It doesn't change. The liquidity is an issue. I just saw a report from Glassnode. It looks like OTC might be drying up, but there's a discrepancy in charts all across the board, but it doesn't matter. I think as time goes on, there's only so much that they can actually absorb. And then, of course, as time happens, we get into the halving. Again, 3 or 4 months, it's going to be crazy. So everybody, thanks so much for stopping by for today. Sam, especially stopping by. If you're not subscribed, here's Sam's channel, my financial friend. Also, you can find him on X. The links are in the description. And check out this little gem right here. I'm buying heavy, which was 3 weeks ago when I think Bitcoin was under 60, actually around 55, 52,000. So congratulations, Sam. You were buying heavy then, and you were buying a year ago. So good job.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Rob. Appreciate you. And
Absolutely.
Appreciate what you're doing for the crypto space too.
We're trying, buddy. All right, everybody. So thanks so much. Get out of here. I appreciate you. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Everything we talk about is time sensitive. That's it for today. So thanks, everybody. See you on the next one.